This Week in Startups is brought to you by Square. Get free processing on your first $500 in sales at square.com/twist. Some terms apply. And Upside, the best new way to buy business travel. Visit upside.com, enter the promo code TWIST, and you're guaranteed to get at least a $100 Amazon gift card after booking your first trip.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of This Week in Startups. It's a program where we talk to founders who are making companies, products, services that hope to change the world. And if you watch the TV show Billions, which is one of the most exceptional TV shows on the air today, in what is the unexpected golden age of television we're living in, you know that hedge fund executives, quants, quantitative analysts, are a marauding group of capitalists who want to fleece everybody in sight. Their competitors, pension funds, the government, and yes, even their co-workers. That last part is the key. In this dog-eat-dog, zero-sum game world, it's not enough to win. No, greed is good, but destroying your competitors in and outside of your office is the stated goal of hedge funds. You're either in or you're out. And Axe Capital from the aforementioned show Billions is just as vicious as Game of Thrones, and the show has just as much sex. Our guest today, Richard Craib, wants to flip the hedge fund script, making quants collaborators in a community where a rising tide lifts all boats. Welcome to the program, Richard Craib.
Thank you.
What'd you think of that intro?
That was good. That was really good.
It was good. You watched the show Billions?
I have seen it, yeah.
You have seen Billions? It's about hedge funds?
Yeah.
What are hedge funds?
Well, they're like late stage VCs.
Okay. What's different about these late stages, other than they invest in the late stage, in terms of how they make money than VCs, let's say?
Well, it's very different, definitely a different culture. But with quantitative hedge funds, what they're doing is trying to get an edge on lots of different securities. Whereas
stocks.
Right. Whereas a hedge fund like Axe Capital is more about insider trading style hedge fund, where you have you get an edge by other means.
Right.
Yeah.
Having illegal inside information, or in some cases, having information that maybe isn't illegal, but just harder to access.
Exactly, yeah.
How do they know the difference between what's hard to access? I know you don't work for the SEC and you're not an attorney.
Yeah.
But what are the general ground rules for if I have satellite images of, the parking lots at Target and I know that they're suffering and I short the stock, is that inside information or is it just hard to obtain information?
Yeah, that's fine. That's an information asymmetry. They're trying to have this kind of information asymmetry. They're trying to have data that no one else has, and that's where they get an advantage.
And they have quants, these quantitative analysts, who are trained to look for what in the market? What does a quant do that's different than, say, a programmer or a statistician or a stock picker? Where did this come from, this career of being a quant?
It's really that there started to be a lot of data available. So suddenly exchanges were recording trades in databases. And this is relatively new given the history of how long the history of finance is. And then a few mathematicians and programmers started thinking, well, what patterns are in this data? And that became known as a quant. If you're a researcher who's mathematical, statistical, physics and you're coming at it from a scientific lens, and you're looking at these patterns and trying to figure out a model that predicts the future.
So I don't necessarily care to listen to the management of the company. I'm looking at the trades that have occurred in the market, the patterns, the data of what people are trading, what the prices are, how many people are trading, whatever data I can find, and trying to make a decision on buying and selling in the data.
Exactly. So you're never forming a sharp edge like you would if you, say, knew what Netflix was about to announce in their earnings. You're where you could maybe bet a lot. You're betting a small amount on things where you see small statistical patterns.
How is that different then, or how does it relate to flash trading, which we've been hearing a ton about?
Yeah, so that's all quantitative because you would never be able to even think as fast as these computers place trades.
Define flash trading. Is that what it's called, flash trading?
High frequency trading as well.
High frequency trading?
It's just trading on very, very short time horizons, sometimes less than a nanosecond.
So me as a schmuck in the stock market might hold Apple for 2 years.
Yeah.
Some high frequency trading quant might hold it. How often and how much would they trade?
Less than a second, and they'll probably only own a few shares during that time.
So they'll own 10 shares, 1,000 shares, and trade it in a second.
Right. So they found a way to buy it for very cheap on one exchange, and they only can get 10 shares, and then they just hold it for 1 second and try to sell it on another exchange and hope that they make money this way.
That feels like an unfair competitive advantage in the market, this sort of looking for a speed edge.
Yeah.
Has that been leveled out, and do you agree with that? Because there was a 60 Minutes piece, and there was this book, I guess, did Michael Lewis write it on?
If you're good at high frequency trading, it really is. It's almost like you're good at hardware, right? You have the computers closer, and then the math of it is actually not that difficult. It's not hard to see this price is less than this price on these two exchanges, but it is important to be fast. Whereas with quant, you're actually, it's like the person who had the best model actually wins. In high frequency trading, it's kind of more speed, and therefore it is very much differentiated with very high barriers to entry to do with all these kinds of things that you read in Michael Lewis's book, like co-location and things like that.
Right. Co-location would be, I'm going to put my trading server just closer to the exchange, and I'm going to put in a fiber line, and the servers are going to be in the same rack next door to them, so I get this nanosecond quicker than somebody in Chicago.
Yeah.
And that they seem to be plugging up those holes. That was my rudimentary understanding of it.
Yeah, I feel like maybe that's been a wave that's come and gone already to some extent. I don't think it's easy to start a new high frequency trading.
Got it.
Fund.
And that book, by the way, was Michael Lewis's Flash Boys, 4.5 stars on Amazon right now. So you looked at this space. You look at quants. Are you a quant? Did you work as a quant?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah?
I did, but I kind of came at it from a machine learning perspective. So a lot of the quant, the simple quant methods are just statistical. So it's like you run a linear regression. But around the time I was graduating, machine learning was becoming, doing way better at these kinds of tasks than a logistic regression. And so I was trying to figure out, are there ways to do machine learning on financial time series data? And also I was averse to making models that were on this short-term time horizon. And so what my company does is actually trade things on a much longer time horizon and doesn't really use conventional statistics, but uses very modern artificial intelligence. Got it.
And how does this other term that people have, what is it called? I'm drawing a blank on it right now. Other ways to sort of trade stocks and models.
You've kind of hit them all, I think.
Yeah.
High frequency trading, normal trading, and then quant, which is a little bit longer term.
Got it. So when you're a quant, where do these quants get paid? If you're a quant, how do you get compensated?
Well, you can get paid a lot if you're a quant, but you sort of have to be at one of the. You have to be the right place, basically. You have to
Goldman Sachs or something?
You first have to go to MIT twice, and then you have to get a job at Goldman Sachs for a little while, and then you have to get a job at AQR.
And then what? They give you a bunch of money and say, trade this money, and you keep 20% of it, or 10% of it, or 1% of it?
It doesn't actually work like that at the bigger places where they actually have you just research.
Got it.
And you never actually get involved in the day-to-day trading.
So you're just like a little monkey in the corner who gives them the actual instructions, like, oh, look here, I found some data, here you go, and you hand it to somebody who trades it?
A little scientist in the corner.
A little scientist corner. And I say the little monkey thing because whoever the person who pulls the trigger as a trader, you're just a resource to them in that,
yeah,
sort of.
But you are driving the whole business.
Is there some animosity in the quant world about this dynamic where you get paid whatever, a quant gets paid $1 million a year, $500,000 a year?
I think, there's definitely, I think that is a problem right now where everyone can see quantitative approaches are working better than other approaches. And, but you still have a huge class of millions of people who graduated with MBAs and not math degrees, and they're still the oldest people with the money and the power.
Got it. So there's some 50, 60-year-old person who's got an MBA, 30, 40 years on the street. They hire a bunch of quants for $500,000 a year, but they make 5 or 10 million.
Yeah. And now it's sort of reversing because the quants are a little bit like, well, what are you guys doing?
That's interesting. Okay, you know what I was going to ask you, and we're going to get into your company and your solution right after the break, but I wanted to ask you about sentiment analysis. That was what I was thinking about. I heard, and I got pitched a ton on sentiment analysis. I'm going to look at what people are saying in chat rooms, on Twitter, in newspaper stories, and if the sentiment, how people feel about Apple or Apple products or Google will some way correlate with my ability to trade. Was that just a bunch of hogwash? I saw a ton of these people selling this, and I felt like it was snake oil. Am I right or am I wrong?
I think you're right.
It is snake oil.
It is, yeah. It was very fashionable because suddenly computers could predict sentiment better than they used to be able to. And then there was all this data available online publicly. But I think what's missing is the trade expression. So if you did know people on Twitter have good sentiment about Google, does that really mean you should buy Google? Aren't they more to do with macro advertising trends and technology trends? Is it really important that people on Twitter like the brand of Google for the stock market? So there's a little bit of a disconnect there. I mean, they might be right that they can tell the mood about a stock, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can trade on that information.
Right now, people might be absolutely down on United or Facebook. Or even Snapchat, because Facebook's been stealing all this stuff and people feel like, oh my God, there's some headwind against these companies.
Yeah.
And if there's this bad sentiment, that might actually make the companies more focused on revenue and earnings because they can't win the PR war. And in my experience, when you can't win the PR war, you get more resolve to focus on your core metrics in business because you're like, well, nobody likes us anyway. F it. Zuckerberg at Facebook must be like, nobody likes us because we're stealing, so we must win as our reward as opposed to being loved. So there's it feels to me like there's a break between, okay, we know Facebook is not liked or Uber's had some problems or United's had some problems, whoever's got the problems of the month in the rage machine, and sometimes they earn the hatred for their company and other times it's just the rage machine on full tilt. But that doesn't actually correlate with the core fundamentals of the business, is what you're saying.
Right. So I agree. And I think it's like you're right. Like it's more the intuition. If you were to take all this data, you'd still have to have human intuition about what to do with it. So it's sort of not really a quant thing. It might help if you were a big shareholder in Google, it might help to know what the sentiment is like. But it wouldn't necessarily be an instant way to trade it.
See, I'm a contrarian in this regard. I think that whatever the consensus view of things are, the mob of people are generally idiots and uninformed. They don't have the inside information. Because I've seen this after angel investing in 150 companies. People are like, this company's dead. And I'm like, I don't know. I think they're figuring it out, right? And then I see founders and teams get their backs up against the wall. And you know what happens when people have their backs up against the wall and they're about to fall off the cliff? They get really focused. And your eyes get, boom, they just open up really wide. And you find out, you know what? I don't want to fall off the cliff. Therefore, I'm going to figure out a way to climb the mountain.
Right.
When we get back from this break, I want to know about your company. It's Numerai?
Numerai.
The Numerai.
Like samurai.
Numerai. Numerai, like a samurai. Thank you for the iteration there. Numerai, and how you plan on getting these quants to take over the world when we get back on This Week in Startups. Hey Hey, everybody, I want to tell you about a product and service that I love, that I use as a customer, and that my wife used actually for her small business. It's Square. You know Square. They do credit card processing for businesses of all sizes, and it's a beautifully designed, gorgeous experience. You've used it as a customer where you sign with your finger and you put your nice tip amount in, you get a great receipt. It's gorgeous hardware. It's very reliable, super easy to use, very powerful, and the payments, you can take them anywhere. Like personal trainers I've seen use it that I work with, slide your credit card. Any business size will love it. And there's no hidden fees. You just pay for one simple rate, and it's a sign-up process that takes minutes, probably under a minute. They accept every major credit card, and you pay only for what you use. They'll also deposit your money fast, and this is critical for small and medium-sized businesses. Hey, even some big businesses. You don't want to be having to wait for your money, and they will deposit it fast every time, even instantly if you really need that. And they can protect you with a $250 a month in free chargeback protection. They have top-level security and amazing customer support. All that's free of charge. Why? Because they want their partners to succeed. If you succeed, they succeed. And here is an amazing offer. I can't believe how great this offer is. You can sign up now for free processing on your first $500 in sales at square.com/twist. Square.com/twist, TWIST. Hey, beautiful product, amazing service, great support. It's gorgeous. It's easy. You'll sign up quick. Go ahead and go to square.com/twist. Some terms do apply. Square.com/twist. Welcome to the program, Square. Okay, let's get back to this amazing episode. Hey, everybody, welcome back to This Week in Startups. This is the podcast where you can learn about entrepreneurship, angel investing, technology. Now, I know we've been doing this for 8 years, over 700 episodes. There's a lot of new podcasts going on about startups and culture. All those other startups are terrible. It's garbage. It's very sad. No, I'm kidding. It's great that there's a lot of podcasts, but this podcast is where we go deep. Other podcasts might be 20 minutes. We might go an hour or two and get very deep. So if you want to learn, those other podcasts are a great way to sort of dip your toe. This is the podcast that's like your MBA, your graduate degree, your PhD. That's how you should look at this podcast, This Week in Startups. And if you want to go deeper, go to community.thisweekinstartups.com, and you can join our community of people discussing the show and the topics on it. Or you can go to facebook.com/group/This Week in Startups and join the This Week in Startups group on Facebook. We're trying out 2 different platforms for that. And you can follow us on Twitter at TWI Startups and on Instagram at TWI Startups. You can follow me at Jason on Instagram and Twitter. And if you really love the show, there's one thing you can do to help, which is go write a review on iTunes. And we're also on Spotify now. I know people don't know podcasting since Spotify, but we got thousands of people now are using Spotify for podcasting, which I think is pretty ingenious. You like music, Richard?
Sure.
What's your favorite? I'm curious if you're not like one of these quants who's into like death metal and you put your headphones on and you're listening to Metallica, or are you listening to Enya? I'm trying to figure you out.
Do I have to pick one of those?
It's going to be one extreme or the other. I can't picture you listening. Maybe you're like a Jack Johnson kind of guy.
No, I actually recently I went to a Radiohead concert.
Really?
And they're actually my favorite band.
Now they're your favorite. So you missed it by 10 years. I thought you were a quant. Would you look at the historical data and you found out Radiohead was loved?
They were my favorite. And they're still my favorite.
They were, and they still are. Okay, good. All right, what's the best Radiohead album in your estimation?
OK Computer is obviously just
a masterpiece.
Yeah.
People consider it. You know what I've been listening to? Dire Straits.
Interesting.
If you want to have your mind blown, I mean, Mark Knopfler is perhaps one of the, I don't know, most people consider him top 50. I would consider him top 20 guitarist of all time. But also as a lyricist, he might be in the top 15 lyricists of all time, along with Neil Young, Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen, and those kind of people. So you have this like incredible dexterity on guitar, and just get the album Alchemy. I've been listening to the album. It's a live album. So there's your tips, everybody, This Week in Music. Hey, so Richard, you came up with an idea to get Numerai, like samurai, which is NUMER.AI, because we have this .ai extension now. You can go check it out. And you can follow Numerai on Twitter as well. What was your idea for how to let the quants drive a business and maybe take center stage, which I get the sense that you're putting them first. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me your idea.
Well, one of the key ways in which we're different from conventional hedge funds is that we give away all of our data. And that's sort of the last thing another hedge fund would want to do.
Because it's your edge.
Would Axe Capital give away all the data?
No!
And would any quant fund? No, because they've been building up this data edge over time. And so that was a kind of counterintuitive thing. Like, can you do a hedge fund where you actually do give away all the data and anyone can download it and anyone can model it with machine learning and submit predictions back to the hedge, to us, and then that powers our hedge fund. So we're trying to use machine learning and blockchain even to make a new kind of hedge fund that turns the existing quant kind of upside down.
So if I'm a quant, I don't have a job. Let's say I'm in school. What would I be? I'd be getting a math degree or a physics degree? What would I typically be getting?
Anything quantitative.
Where do they typically get?
A lot of them are math and statistics.
PhD students, masters?
Our user base?
Yeah.
I would say, masters, professors even.
Okay, so I'm a professor at MIT.
Yeah.
I decide, hey, I hear about this Numerai thing, and I say, hey, I would like to take a swing at the bat. I go on the site, I write my model, I publish it, and then what happens next? You go trade based on that?
Yeah. So you actually you download a data set and you begin modeling the data set that you download.
What would the data set be, like the last year of trades on the market? Or
we don't say what it is. So that's the interesting thing. Although we're sharing all the data with everyone, it's completely obfuscated of anything to do with finance. So if you look at it, it's on my computer here.
Cool.
It doesn't look like anything you would recognize, and is a totally abstract kind of mathematical problem versus a finance problem. And that's why if you're an MIT math professor, this data, even though you don't know what it is, you can actually build a machine learning algorithm on it.
Okay, so let's see. Why don't you show us how this works?
Okay. Basically, you download a huge grid of numbers between 0 and 1. And you model that. So you don't know what you're doing, but you can still do modeling. And that's the only part of the company. The website's very simple. You just download data, you do the modeling on your own computer, and you upload predictions.
But I don't know what that core data set is.
No, and you don't need to.
You're putting where? So what is the data set? You just have some secret data set you're putting out there?
Yeah.
So you say, here's a bunch of data. You model what's going to happen next.
Exactly.
They model what they think is going to happen next. They upload what, an algorithm? Or like a piece of code? What are they uploading to you?
All they're doing is uploading the predictions. So in fact, they have no idea what the data is, and we also have no idea what model they used to create the predictions. So we're both blind to either party.
So you don't actually know how they made. They're just giving you the output.
Exactly.
So they actually know their algorithm.
And it's their IP.
And it's their IP.
Yeah.
That's critical.
Exactly.
Now, they give back to you the predictions. Do they have to give it back to you in a certain amount of time? Because isn't trading based upon time? Things change?
They have kind of 1 week to give it back.
So you give them the data. They build a model. They come out with an output. They give you the output. Now, what do you do with that output, their prediction?
So we have a whole bunch of now, once they send it to us, we have a whole bunch of probabilities on global equities. So Apple, we might be saying Apple's going to go up with probability 0.55 or something like that. And we'll have this from our 15,000 data scientists and whoever was competing in that week. And we can then say, okay, well, if we have all these different models, can we combine them in a way that's way better than the best model? And
then you might put 2 or 3 together.
Yeah, we'll put hundreds together.
So everybody makes a prediction. In this case, they don't know exactly what the data was, but let's say it was something to do with Apple. Now you know, hey, in 100 predictions by 100 smart people, everybody's sort of leaning towards this being the next chess move.
Exactly.
So it's almost like having a bunch of chess experts who say, this is where we think you should go.
Exactly.
Then you make a trade based on that?
Yeah.
How much money? How much?
I'm not sure how much we can talk about the construction of the.
Okay.
But we trade 100 or so stocks.
Got it.
Based on all the predictions.
Got it. Now, do you tell people afterwards who won or who ranked highest? How does that work?
Yeah. So
how do they get feedback that they did well?
Yeah, because since they don't know what they predicted, they can't go and check Yahoo Finance. Did they do well?
Right.
But everything we do is in this machine learning and abstract way. So when they submit a whole bunch of predictions, they were submitting thousands of them, and the thousands of them that they predict, we analyze those, and. Sorry, what was I saying? Sorry, am I still running out of battery here?
Yeah, no problem. So now when you do that, you can make some amount of money, and then you get some amount of it goes back to the quants, and you pay them money?
So when some of their predictions are going to be on live data, and some of them are going to be on test data. The test data is what we use to validate it, and that's how we know the models are good. And then based on the live performance, we pay them. So it's for the best, it's called the logarithmic loss error. Whoever has the lowest logarithmic loss error gets the most money. And we pay all the payouts in Bitcoin.
How efficient.
How efficient.
So now they just get a little bit of Bitcoin. So how long have you been doing this now?
18 months.
18 months.
Yeah.
How many people are doing it? Is anybody doing it as like a full-time job in the group, or is it all just kind of like part-time work, like a Uber driver or Lyft driver?
Yeah, I think everyone views it as a kind of experimental project, right? I don't think many people are doing it just for the money.
So they're not quitting their jobs over it?
I don't think so, but
Are they all anonymous, by the way? Because you're paying them in Bitcoin. Do you have to know who they are?
No. They don't know what the data is, we don't know what the models are, and we don't know who they are.
You don't know who they are?
No.
Oh my God, that's insane. So they could be from China.
Yeah.
They could be from a high school in Boston. It could be anybody.
Yeah.
All you care about is their performance.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And if it goes up massively, you could be just sending money, large amounts of money, to somebody you don't even know who it is. You just know that they had some performance.
Yeah, and some of them tell us who they are. So we have some Russian teenagers and a lot of graduate students in India, and a lot in the US too.
This reminds me of a startup I have, Brilliant.org, which is basically putting math problems out into the world, really sophisticated, hard ones. And they find incredibly talented people all over the world who, before this, were anonymous. But it turns out the kid in Sri Lanka, who's the smartest kid in his town, actually knows the next town over the smartest kid because they like to do math together. And then all of a sudden you get 2 or 3 people who are the brightest Sri Lankan mathematicians who were never on the radar of anybody.
Yeah.
Are now able to get into MIT because they filled out so many brilliant problems. You have all this intelligence out there in the world that's uncaptured.
Totally. And it's and then if you realize that it's because of the internet that you can do something like this, right? And a lot of these quant funds were started before the internet, and they would never start the same way today when you realize how much talent is out there.
Now, do you have a fund in addition to the $7.5 million you've raised from very notable venture capitalists like Union Square Ventures?
Yeah, we do have a fund, but we aren't allowed to talk about it.
Got it. Makes sense. Well, there's a lot of money at stake. So when we get back, I want to walk through the product a little bit and ask you a little bit about where this is all going and how you will know if you've succeeded with Numerai when we get back on This Week in Startups. Hey, everybody, I want to tell you about a brand new service called Upside.com. My assistant Jess has been using it here, and it is awesome. You go to Upside.com and you book your hotel and your flight together, and they give you an Amazon gift card for between $100 and $300. Yes, if you are booking your hotel and your airline ticket together, your flight and your hotel together, that saves a lot of money for you, and they pass that along in the form of an Amazon gift card. If you're a frequent biz traveler, your company saves a bunch of money, and you can get thousands of dollars a year just by buying your air and hotel together at Upside.com. Plus, you'll still get all your miles, so there's no issue there. And it takes about 3 minutes, or less actually, I did it less than 3 minutes, to see how much you can save by buying your flights and hotel together for one low price. So here is your call to action. Please go to Upside.com and enter the promo code TWIST, and you will get at least a $100 Amazon gift card for free for your first trip. It is a no-brainer. Save big on travel and get a big gift card every trip. That call to action, one more time, go to upside.com and use the promo code TWIST. It's great to have you as a partner on the podcast. Thanks a lot to Upside for supporting independent media like This Week in Startups. Okay, speaking of which, let's get back to this amazing episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to This Week in Startups. Thanks to our partners for supporting independent media like This Week in Startups. You can help us, too, by subscribing on iTunes, writing a review, and generally telling your friends about the podcast, especially if they're entrepreneurs. It's always good for them. The goal of the show is to make everybody smarter, and maybe we entertain you in the process. My guest today, Richard Craib, he is with Numerai like samurai. All right, now let's take a look at the software. When we left you, we have a nice big build-up here of how this works. I see a screen here. This looks like, I'm looking at my Stripe account or something, and it's some enterprise software. But what am I looking at here on the screen? I see a data scientist with a weird name, their log, USD earned, how much money they made. This guy made $144. Their consistency, originality, and concordance. I just sportscast what I see on the screen here.
Yeah.
What are these columns? What does this data mean? Walk me through it like a sportscaster.
The main thing is this part, which is the leaderboard. It shows all the data scientists who are competing right now.
Got it.
And then these other things are really measures of how well their model is doing. And we have lots of different things we need to check. We need to check if, for example, concordance checks whether they're using one model through all periods of time. And that's a very critical thing for us. And then originality is your model original compared to everyone else? Because if it's unoriginal, we don't really need it. So
originality is like a binary step, yes or no?
Exactly. Same with concordance.
Okay. What does the word concordance mean?
It means unity of mind.
Got it. So we're thinking alike. What does it mean in this context?
It means that it's one model. It's all coming from one model.
Got it. And I see this is tournament number 53.
Yeah.
So you run a tournament every week? Every 2 weeks?
We do it every week, yeah.
Every week there's a tournament. So it's got a little gamification. And there's 4 days, 22 hours remaining and 3 seconds, 17 minutes and 3 seconds for you to get your results in.
Yeah.
Do you call them results?
For you to upload your predictions.
Your predictions.
Yeah.
And it says USD earned, so how much money you made in US dollars. That's historically how much you've earned or in this contest?
Yeah, that's historically.
Got it. So people are making tens to hundreds of dollars I see in this model. I'm wondering if you...
have done...
I was about to say, if you sorted the column, we see that whoever the data scientist WSW has made $11,000. Noon with 2 O's has made 4,000 and Mango has made 28. What's so unique about WSW that he has made double, triple the next highest person, and it looks like 5 times the third, fourth, and fifth person?
He's quite good, and he's also been around since day one, I think. So he's been doing this for 18 months. He's very familiar with the data. He's very familiar with data science.
So he's making about $200 per contest on average if he did all 50. Or something like that.
Something like that.
So $200 a week in his spare time. But this means to me, if you're giving him $200 per contest and you were giving 50% of the gain to the, I'm making that up, but do you disclose what percentage of the gain you give to the quants right now?
No, because we're still early, and so everything's an experiment.
Got it. So you might be giving 100% of it to them. Who knows?
Yeah, and we might also, when we've changed it, many times. So we've increased it many times, and now it's much higher than it's ever been, and we also recently announced our own cryptocurrency.
Oh, this is the fascinating part. So okay. One thing we'll get to the cryptocurrency in a second, but one thing I don't understand here is the promise of making people more collaborative. So if I'm WSW, why am I rooting for the next person to do better?
Yeah. So if you are anonymous, if you have a website for anonymous people, it turns out that the abuse is higher.
Sure.
Which is obvious in a way.
Yeah. And it's also known as Twitter.
So yeah, these users.
Well, I mean, in all reality, like literally, Roger Ailes, who was alleged, was hiring firms to create fake accounts to torture female broadcasters on the network who
Yikes.
were in some way, I guess, telling the truth about him or claiming that he did bad things. So there is something to this. I mean, it's actually part of the Homeland, whatever season this is, arc, is that there's a bunch of spam bots out there trying to sway people to do things. So you have anonymity here. Continue.
Yeah. So why, if you had anonymity, why not make multiple accounts and try to win all the places?
That's what I was just thinking.
Right. And if you're only going to get paid in Bitcoin, that's also, kind of, it can't be reversed. If once we've paid you, we can't say, oh.
No, give it back. Yeah.
That's part of the fun of it in a way. We don't want to make a system that you have to, sign up with a phone number and verify your identity, and it'll really lose all the fun, or send us your model's code.
Right.
We really want it to be an open thing, more like a protocol. And that's where a lot of these things come from. So concordance actually checks for a kind of abuse where you might be submitting predictions that are really good on old data but not good on new data. And you still might win Bitcoin with certain kinds of attacks like this, but you're actually not helping us.
Right.
And so we needed a way to make everyone really work together and have a sense of what's the best long-term thing. And by giving away Numerai, it's connected to the value of the company. And so why would you want to destroy the currency that you hold?
So people are getting US dollars in Bitcoin, but you also have your own cryptocurrency you launched called Numerai.
Yeah.
Which is the equity of the parent company, or tied to the equity of the parent company.
It's not tied to equity, but it is tied to the payouts. So it's a little bit like a right to receive more payouts.
Got it. A tracking stock in a way.
It tracks the payouts, yeah.
Tracks the payouts. So you have this shadow currency that tracks the Bitcoin payouts, and I get some of that as well every time I earn. So I'm getting two types of payments?
Yes, exactly.
So my Numerai, what do you call the coins? Numerai. Those also have value that I could sell at some point?
Yeah.
Is there going to be some moment I can cash in on those?
The Numerai is a cryptocurrency based on the Ethereum blockchain. So because of that, anything where you can trade Ethereum tokens, you will also be able to trade Numerai.
So I could go buy Numerai today if I'm not a quant.
Not today.
Not
but
yet.
Yes, you could when in the future. So what we've done is announced the cryptocurrency. We've given out the white paper, and we're sharing the code on GitHub with our community for the smart contract. But what you have to be careful with these smart contracts is you kind of can't make one mistake.
Right, because this Ethereum platform, which is a cryptocurrency, has contracts built into it. So in the blockchain, I can make a contract with you, which is if the temperature today, according to this website's data, breaks 70 degrees, I give you $1,000 in Ethereum. And if it actually happens, the Ethereum trades hands.
Exactly. And you can't get out of that contract.
And this was prescient, or is prescient, because, and very relatable, because we just had somebody raise a venture fund of Ethereum where people would invest the money if everybody voted in a certain way, and somebody gamed it and flushed the Ethereum.
Exactly. $150 million.
Explain what happened in that, broad strokes.
I actually don't know all the details there, but...
I don't think anybody knows all the details.
Yeah,
That's part of the problem.
Basically, they wrote a contract, and they put it on... They tested it. They thought they had tested it. They put it on Ethereum, and quite quickly, someone realized there's a bug, and that you could basically drain the entire trust of Ether that was sitting in this contract. And so they did. And
wow.
And it was a pretty...
That was the DAO?
Pretty big D. The DAO.
The DAO.
Yeah, the DAO,
DAO.
Yeah.
You obviously are a big fan of this idea of smart contracts.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the future of investing, perhaps?
For the same reason it's this weakness of you can't change it. That is actually a desirable property for everything else. Because imagine you had Numerai, and I decided, well, I'm the founder of Numerai, I'm going to take it away from you.
Yeah.
I can't do that. It's on the blockchain. It's impossible for me to do that. And that is a critical thing. You don't have to trust me, right? It's non-confiscatable. And that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to have another part of Numerai that had this trustless relationship.
All right, let me ask you a tough question here. It's been softballs so far, but if you're sending, I think you can handle it. If you're sending money to people, people always have concerns about who's getting that money, what they wind up doing with it. We don't necessarily have the right to audit what everybody does with their money. That's their business. But there are these things like taxes and borders. So in this case, if I was a bunch of Al-Qaeda quants, I mean, this is a ridiculous hypothetical, but let's just say I was a bunch of quants who were Russian hackers. You said there were some Russians here, and they're literally spending half a day making money as quants and half a day trying to disrupt elections with the money they make, and nobody can ever track it to that Russian hacking group. Is that a concern? And how do you deal with that concern, I guess, is the bigger question.
Yeah, I mean, this is
taxes.
This is almost the 21st century issue in a way. I mean, if you are you allowed privacy or not? And anonymity is privacy, and that's a big question. But at the same time, there's certain laws that you have to respect, and a lot of them do make sense. There's a law where if you're paying someone in the U.S., you need to present them with tax. Give the 1099.
Sure.
And so we do that.
Got it.
And we say, if you're in the U.S., you need to, tell us this, and we'll send you the 1099.
Right.
And so we've done that for lots of people.
Got it. So it's possible somebody could commit fraud on their side and lie to you, use a VPN or whatever. But as long as you take reasonable steps, like somebody in a bank does, sure. So you could go into a bank with a fake ID and spoof it as well.
Exactly.
So there's a list of things you need to do to be tight, but fraud will happen.
Yeah, we do the best we can, and we're not sure how our data scientists spend the money.
Right.
But neither is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neither is the person at Starbucks who then goes and reads the anarchist cookbooks and makes a pipe bomb. Like, you're not responsible at Starbucks for that. We live in a very nanny society now.
Yeah.
I don't know where you sit on the political spectrum. I could make some guesses, but I probably would not have guessed Radiohead, so I'm probably wrong. But I'm guessing you're quite a libertarian over there.
Yeah, I think I am. I think our users are. They don't want us to, have to wire money to their countries where they have no banking infrastructure, and for us to be forced to pay them in a currency that they don't want. And there's,
that could be devalued.
Yeah. So there's all these things, and I think this is kind of the way things are going.
Yeah.
And we can just do the best we can with the laws that they are right now. But speaking of terrorism, though, and some of our users, actually, there was sort of initially when we launched, there was a small conspiracy that our data wasn't financial data.
Oh, really?
And that we were asking them to model
something nefarious.
Stuff for ISIS or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
And you would never know, looking at the data, whether
you're modeling
because it's
nuclear physics for Kim Jong-un or the Apple stock price next month.
Exactly.
But you have to come up with a new contest every week.
Yeah, it's new every week. There's new data every week, but a lot of it's the same. So if you've got a great model this week, it'll be a great model next week.
Would this apply if you said, hey, we have a bunch of data around health and trying to cure cancer, and we just need a bunch of smart quants to just analyze this new theory we have, and contest 752 that you do, 12 years from now, is to try and cure brain cancer based on some data that was given to you by, Craig Venter or something?
There's a lot of things that are specific to financial data that we do. So because it might not work very well with healthcare data.
Okay.
And also there's an interesting thing with finance. You actually, if you just get a small edge, you can do incredibly well. But for things like health.
What's a small edge? 1% or 0.1%?
Yeah, if you can be right 55% of the time instead of 54%, that's a huge difference. and you can
Because you're doing so many trades.
exactly.
A small edge repeated multiple times is better than a huge edge once.
Exactly.
This is what we call poker in gambling.
So yeah, if you have a little bit of an edge in finance, it really helps. But if you can predict something in health slightly better, it actually doesn't help that much. So then you might as well just make your own model and not do the crowdsourcing piece.
Got it.
But Numerai makes sense because we need, every little bit counts. And then also, I think the hedge fund industry and the asset management industry is kind of a terrible industry that, we need a Silicon Valley solution to that. And they charge too much.
The hedge funds charge you.
Yeah.
20 and 2, what do they get?
2 and 20 is a common, but it's 2 and 20 and you make losses. So it's really demotivating.
You don't make up the losses.
Yeah, you still pay the 2 when you make losses.
Amazing.
So it's a really bad industry. None of the customers of hedge funds don't like the hedge funds. The people inside hedge funds don't like themselves. And I think
Going back to the TV show Billions is pretty.
there's
There's a lot of loathing going on, self and otherwise.
Exactly. So I think we need something a little bit more futuristic.
Of the 53 weeks that you've run these tests, how many of those weeks would you say you performed well, net positive? All of them?
We can't say.
Okay.
In our fund, we can't say, but I will say that these models are very good. If you look at
So they're working
yeah, some of them are working some of them are working very frequently.
very frequently.
Yeah.
So you're finding the winners,
We're finding the winners and we're learning more and more about
the winning people.
exactly.
And if somebody is a huge winner over some period of time, is there going to be a time where you lean into that person? In other words, if WSW, whoever that is doing so well, do you put more weight on their models in the future or currently?
When we combine the models together, we use machine learning to combine them. So that's sort of all the machine learning happens outside, except for the machine learning that combines all the machine learning. And so we do that piece, and that will pick up, okay, well, this one's clearly really good, and we need to upweight him in the meta model that combines them all.
So you have, if a quant, if she had won the last 10 weeks in a row, she would get an edge in week 11. Or do you think...
You never want to focus on the short term because they may have a model that is only working well because of President Trump or something.
Got it. Interesting. Is the current changes that Trump is proposing, obviously going to a 15% corporate tax for LLCs and other things, it's going to be a bonanza for quants, hedges, and everybody in finance, correct?
Yeah, I think he campaigned on wanting to close up hedge fund rules.
And he just cut their taxes 20%?
Well, he cut everyone's taxes, and they're also counted in the companies. So LLCs, hedge funds are typically LLCs. We are an LLC.
And so you'll go from 39% to 15%.
I'm not sure. I don't.
It's something to that effect. It's
yeah.
a proposal, I think.
Yeah.
It's going to be a windfall. You'll pay half as much tax. Yum, yum.
Yeah, and we could invest that money better than the government.
Hopefully. But at the same time, it does feel odd that he was going to drain the swamp and take care of the middle class and the Rust Belt, which got him elected. And his first order of business is to get rid of Obamacare and give a huge refund to rich people. It's like 9 out of 10 people who will benefit from this are in the top 10% of society or 5% or
really?
something. It's pretty staggering.
Yeah. I suppose it helps some small businesses too, but
Theoretically trickle down, maybe.
but to a lesser extent.
I've never been so unstoked to make more money in my life. I kind of felt like the tax rate felt pretty generous already.
I really actually don't understand U.S. tax law.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
It's so convoluted.
Yeah. I'm sure it's bad, and I'm sure there's too many laws, and I'm sure that a simpler system would be better.
If this works, like let's say you outperform all the other hedge funds out there, how big can this get?
we would like to manage all the money in the world. That's our game plan.
So you're the guy who wants to manage all the money in the world.
I want I want the data scientists to manage all the money in the world.
Got it. What should they be compensated? What do you think these quants will wind up making if you succeed? Let's say you have $1 billion under management, or maybe that would make you a small hedge fund if you had $1 billion?
That would be pretty small.
Let's say 10 billion.
Yeah.
Because Guggenheim Partners got over 100 billion, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Blackstone over 100.
Bridgewater is 100, I think. Yeah.
Blackstone is another big one.
Yeah.
Tens of billions, maybe 50 billion. I don't know. So let's say you get to 10. Would that be like a mid-market hedgy? Let's say you get to 10 billion. How much would these quants be making in these weekly contests, do you think?
Well,
would we add 2 zeros, 3 zeros, 4 zeros to that number?
If we suppose we charge 1% management fee instead of 2. So
you get $1 billion. You get 100 million.
We get 100 million. Then if you think about, if we get 100 million per year, and that's without making performance, and we will make performance by then. We should. I shouldn't make forward-looking statements about performance.
You can't make forward-looking statements, but I'll make them for you.
Yeah.
If you had 10 billion, you would have 100 million in fees. If you had 100,000, if you had 10,000 quants, it would be shared. That 100 million be shared. You think you'd have 1,000 maybe?
I think at 10 billion, we'd pay $10 million per month to our data scientists.
Incredible. And you think you'll have, 1,000 is the right number, or is it 10,000, or is it 100?
I mean, it'll be pretty stacked to the guys that are doing really well. So, so to the people who are coming first or second on this leaderboard,
they might be 10%.
They might be making $1 million a month or something.
Incredible.
So we hope that, and they would be deserving it, right? They would have be way better than anyone else.
It's fascinating. How diverse is the group of quants in the world? Is it mostly men? Is it men and women? Are there a lot of women quants, female quants out there? I'm curious.
Actually, we looked at our Google Analytics. It was 97% male, 97% according to Google.
Fascinating.
I'm not sure how they measure it because many of them are behind Tor, or they're not. We don't ask for the agenda, and there's lots of these other reasons. So I'm not sure how Google came up with that number. But that's
you talk about Google Analytics does their own male female thing.
I don't know how they do that.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it. IP tracking of some kind.
Yeah.
So that who knows? But what about in the real world? Is it a male dominated field like venture capital currently is?
It is. Yeah, it is. In fact, speaking about poker, I was playing poker this last week.
You play cards?
Yeah.
Really?
I was playing with all the hedge fund people at the Math for America poker tournament.
What was the buy-in?
$5,000.
Was it a tournament?
Tournament, yeah.
Oh, tournament stuff.
All goes to charity, though.
What about the side games? Were there any side games that broke out? I'm not really interested in the charity.
No,
game.
I didn't play the...
How did you do? How many players had you do?
I actually knocked out the 3-time champion, who's quite good. But
so
I didn't...
this is like Billions. Literally, my friend Phil Hellmuth was just on Billions when they had like the quant, and the quant on the show, who, speaking of gender, happens to be non-binary. And she's like the best new character on television this year. I don't know if you're watching.
I haven't seen that season.
She's amazing. She's just like, they literally have a non-binary character who is born female. I think it's the proper way for me to say it. They are born female, would be the proper way. We're all learning these new ways to speak correctly about this new category of people who self-select non-binary. So their pronoun is they on the show, and I think in real life, they're also they, is like this mini version of Axe, who is the marauding, amoral, uniquely moral. I would say uniquely moral because they're not amoral. They have some morality. It's just uniquely moral. So you knocked out the 3-time champ.
But I didn't win, so I knocked him out, and I won
How many players?
I think maybe like 100. A couple of World Series of Poker bracelet holders too.
Very good.
Anyway.
This is Hold'em. You're a Hold'em player. You play cash games?
I have in the past, yeah.
You have cash?
On me?
Well, no. I mean, would you play in a 25-50 game, 2K buy-in, 3K buy-in? Would that be a little too rich right now because you're only Series A, or would that be okay? We might be able to set this up.
I don't know. I mean, I just like winning. I actually played a home game last night. So It was quite low stakes, but I just really
What was the stakes, 5-10?
I just really like winning. It was a tournament style again. So buying for $40.
Oh, we got to get you in a cash game.
So it was different to the other one.
I tell you what, you get me in on this Numerai, currency.
Oh yeah,
I'll buy you in.
Okay.
Numerai
currency. Yeah.
Numerai. You get me a little Numerai. I'll buy you into like a serious cash game. Yeah, we'll split. We'll chop it up, whatever the results are after you pay back, and then I get the Numerai as like a kicker. I need to get it on the Numerai. That's what I want to get it on.
Yeah.
I think this tracking style, or maybe you did a Series A.
Yeah.
You did a Series A. Look at this list of investors. Union Square, which is pretty great. First round, my friend's Howard Morgan.
Yeah.
He's legit. I've known Howard for a long time. Naval from AngelList put money into this. Amazing. I mean, you got a legit group of people in here.
Yeah. Howard is actually a co-founder of Renaissance Technologies, a really big hedge fund, quant hedge fund, and so he was one.
Howard Morgan is?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I've been friends with Howard since he was at Idea Lab in the 90s.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Cool cat.
Yeah, he's into venture and hedge funds, so it was kind of perfect for him.
He's retired from venture, or retired period.
I think he's still he's retired from first round, but he's still investing.
Who's on your board? You have a board now?
Andy Weissman and me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that gets pretty efficient.
Yeah.
4 times a year, 1 hour, you're done. You have a cup of coffee, you're done.
Actually, yeah, much less than that so far, actually.
Yeah, it's quite nice, isn't it?
But we talk a lot.
And you're South African.
Yeah.
When did you get to the United States? I'm curious.
I got here 18 months ago, but I did go to college here.
Where'd you go?
I went to Cornell to study math.
Cornell. Mm-hmm. Very nice. You got all those fjords there.
Yeah.
What do they call them?
Gorges.
Gorges. Those gorges, there's a massive suicide problem there.
It's terrible.
It's horrible. They had to put up fences by the gorges.
Yeah.
Why do people kill themselves at Cornell?
I think it's because of the gorges, actually.
It's induced suicide.
There's a lot of research to say that if you have easy ways to kill yourself, you'll do it with much higher frequency. And so you think...
Which would be the category of induced suicide is I think what they call it.
Okay.
But I think induced suicide means if one person were to kill themselves, other people
so then there's that
now see it as a possibility or as acceptable in some way.
Yeah, so there's that.
So therefore, actually, you're not supposed to talk about it because you're us talking about it. But this is an intellectual discussion. So, but generally speaking, they've kind of asked people, please don't make a big deal out of the Cornell suicides or the Palo Alto suicides because people reading it might be inspired.
Don't email the whole university to say someone has killed himself. Right?
Because somebody else might be like, oh, well, I'm having a shitty day. I should go do that as well.
Yeah, and it's not that conscious, but something like that.
So sad.
Yeah.
Did people kill themselves when you were there?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's terrible.
Yeah.
They literally put up fences around these.
Yeah.
But explain to me what these gorges are. There's just bridges around where these gorges are?
They're bridges over kind of amazing rock formations and kind of glacier type things.
Are there a lot of them?
There are like 7 of them, 7 different bridges that you can
walk on.
You can kill yourself
and kill yourself on.
Yeah.
And they're putting up huge fences on them. So that actually will help.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds insane. We're literally doing this here in San Francisco. I don't know if you're aware. The Golden Gate Bridge is spending $140 million or something to that effect to put a net underneath the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah.
Because they say almost universally, people who have survived jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge say that right as they jumped, they regretted it.
Yep.
So now, because the first thing you think of is if you put a net on the Golden Gate Bridge and the person gets in the net, then they just climb to the edge of the net and they jump out again. Or they just go find another place to jump. It's actually no.
Yeah.
When you have that, oh my God, I'm going to die moment, you actually reconsider doing it.
Yeah. And no one will get caught in the nets. They might not actually jump at all because they
see there's a net there.
Yeah.
They're like, well, this is futile.
So ideally, no one gets caught in it either.
The really interesting thing I thought of, I was having this discussion with people on Twitter, which is obviously a place to have really, deep discussions about life and death. And I just thought to myself, if you had $140 million, let's say the lifespan of these nets is 10 or 20 years. Just let's say, pick a number, 20 years, 10 years. It's $14 million a year. 20 years would be $7 million a year. $7 million a year. If you were to hire 24-hour psychologists and put free therapy at the base of the Golden Gate Bridge with 5 therapists there full-time getting paid $100,000 or $150,000 a year or more
5 on each side, 24 hours a day, and just say, this is a place to talk if you're having whatever. Would that not create less suffering in the world? If the goal is, in fact, to create less suffering, is a $140 million net as effective as what that would buy in free therapy provided for the people of San Francisco, which would lower more suffering? No, fascinating discussion.
Yeah, that is. I think there are a lot of that one makes a lot of sense to me, and there are lots of cost-based discussions you can have, especially around security in America. There's maybe overspending on security, and if you just
such as TSA.
TSA, yeah.
That's the one that comes to mind. I mean,
huge waste.
What are we spending on the TSA? It's got to be unbelievable.
I mean, it's also just the productivity. It's like you're there for an extra half hour or whatever, and you're not allowed to really use your phone.
I always try to be incredibly nice to the TSA agents because I feel like they've been put in a uniquely awkward position, which is they have to be they're by default hated because they're, like you're saying, slowing you down, forcing you to get there early, and they have to poke and prod and look at you and all this stuff. And they happen to be people in society who maybe had some other aspiration in life that they could not reach or have not yet reached, and they have to take this $15 an hour job. That's incredibly horrible. And they take this $15 an hour job, and they're put in between us and some bureaucrat who thinks that this is the right way to solve the problem, which maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But those poor people are not the problem. It's like blaming the wrong person when you get upset at a TSA agent. I always thank them. I try to be super cordial with them because it's not their fault that they've been given this impossible task, which if you really want to sneak something on, you're going to get it on in all likelihood. They probably have not stopped much.
Yeah. Yeah, there's probably no induced terrorism concept.
Right. All right, listen. Richard, I feel like this is, and you've watched the show before. We have we met?
I don't think we've met, no.
We haven't met, but you're a fan of the show.
Yeah.
That's great. Now you're on the show. This is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Your parents are going to get are the parents still in South Africa?
Yeah, they are. I'm not sure they watch it, but yeah.
Well, they don't watch it yet, but you'll send the link. It's really funny. Somebody who works for me, their mom Googled their boss's name. Their mom then found the show. Their mom watched the show, and now their mom is a super fan of the podcast. So now they work for me, and their mom calls them, oh, Jason had on that Richard Craib from Numerai and Numerai. It sounds like samurai. This sounds like something very interesting. This poor person who works for me has to go home, and their mom calls them to talk about the show. I love it. Oh, but I have an even better story.
Okay.
This is the other even better story for my ego, which is completely out of control by default. Anybody who's watched the show knows that. I've been working on it. My wife goes to LA. She gets in an Uber, and she's in the Uber, and the person's listening to a podcast. Oh no, it's right, Jackie. Jackie. And all of a sudden my wife is like working and she's got her headset on and she takes it off and she hears my voice. And she says, I think I'm going crazy. I'm hearing you in the car. And she looks up and she looks at the person's phone and she goes, what are you listening to? And she pretends that she's not my wife. She goes, oh, I'm listening to a podcast about business. It's really awesome. This guy, Jason Kalakanis, is da-da-da. And my wife starts talking. She goes, oh, that's actually my husband. She goes, oh my God, your husband? And then my wife's like, oh my God. So my wife gets her number and she's working on a startup and all this stuff. So I gave her like a VIP ticket, like a whatever, $3,000 ticket to our event as a nice thing. But that was particularly good for my ego. Hey, continued success with this, Richard. I am absolutely fascinated by what you're doing. I'm absolutely upset that I didn't get in on this juicy Series A. When did this Series A occurred? Oh, just this last year.
September. Roughly like September.
Q4 of 2016.
Yeah.
You got the money in the bank.
Yeah.
You got 18 months of runway now, 24 months of runway.
Yeah, 24.
So nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to wake up and know that you're going to be here tomorrow and for the next 2 years. You have time to figure it out.
And we have a natural business model.
It's going to work. But now the fund where people put money in is separate than that venture money, I would suspect, right?
Yeah, completely separate.
So
And
then
different kind of investors. You can't get a VC in a fund, right?
No, but I would suppose that people who are VCs have a little money on the side that they might want to take out of their whatever brokerage account or their index fund and put in this.
Right.
Now, how do I get in on that fund? That's what I want to know.
That's coming up.
All right.
Yeah.
No forward-looking statements here, right? This is finance stuff. You got to get used to this, Richard.
It's tough.
No. The company, Numerai, the founder, Richard Craib. You can follow Richard at Richard Craib. Are you addicted to the Twitter like me and everybody else, or you try to stay off?
I'm not addicted, but I do have it. I'm at Richard Craib.
There you go. How you go on daily or every other day? Every couple of days.
Check it every 10 days, maybe.
Every 10 days. I am part of the group of people who, when they look at their battery percentage on their phone, it's their email, then Twitter. And sometimes my battery percentage is Twitter, then email.
Whoa.
That's how often I use it. I just have to look at it every day because I have so many people
And your username's good.
I got a pretty good username. That's true, too. All right. Listen, continued success. I love the idea. And now I've got a new friend who likes poker, who's got a startup that I might be able to invest in at some point. And you're South African.
Yep.
All my good friends are South African. David Sachs, Vinny Lingham, Elon Musk. Who else do I know is South African? Lyndon from Solar City.
Do you know Rulof?
Rulof, both on my board. Thank you. That's 5. You've seen the Rulof interview on This Week in Startups. Who else do I have? That's 5 right there. Is Peter Thiel South African too?
No.
He's
German.
just odd. He's not South African. He's odd. We have to have Peter on the program again because,
Have you had him?
Yeah, we did a great fireside chat.
Oh, cool.
It's Peter's a unique person, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's very weird in this country. Like, we all of a sudden have to hate each other because of the political situation, which is very untenable for me. I don't think that this is just because somebody has literally, pissed in the well. It doesn't mean all of us have to, treat each other poorly. I just would like for the world to or just for people who are really upset about what's going on right now in the world. We could still be cordial to each other as Americans.
Yeah.
I
think we're used to be. I say we, not as an American, but
you're basically an American. You picked this country over South Africa for a reason.
I call myself American now sometimes.
You prefer this company to South Africa. You prefer this country to South Africa.
I do, yeah. America is the best country.
Still. Despite the shenanigans.
I'm an American exceptionalist.
I'm an exceptionalist, period. I like people who are trying to get stuff done. It's very disturbing, isn't it? Like, when you were in South Africa, people looked at people who are successful and said, that's something admirable, right? Did people look at that? Is that how South Africans get success?
I think America, weirdly, is more wealthy people than South Africa, even though the income inequality in South Africa is even worse.
Right.
So that's sort of surprising.
It's really interesting because my whole life, I looked at people who were successful. I looked at people who were rich specifically because I was so poor and broke and concerned about money. Like, I literally was fearful about money for the majority of my life. Now that I think about it, I was fearful of it for probably 60, 70% of my life. I was really scared of not having money, terrorized about this prospect because we had it happen that we went essentially bankrupt multiple times as a kid. Like, we literally ran out of money. We're in massive credit card debt and all this stuff. It was really scary for me as a young adult, as a child. And I always thought, my God, I really want to not have that situation. I want to study these people and figure out how you become successful in the world. And now I feel like people are saying the people who are successful and the people who have made it, like, these are not the model. These are the bad people.
Yeah.
And we need to move to something else. And I don't think these people ever lived in a socialist country where it doesn't work, where it hasn't worked traditionally.
Yeah, I think people nowadays, they hate billionaires. It's a strange thing. You can say, "Oh, we're gonna take back what we deserve from the billionaires." It's like, who do you mean specifically?
Yeah, which one?
Larry Page,
which one? Yeah,
Bill Gates.
Yeah, Bill Gates. By the way, you don't have to take
Warren
it from
Buffett.
him. He's giving it all away.
Yeah, they're nearly all of them
have signed the giving pledge.
So it's extremely weird. And I don't know who they mean when they say that. I guess they mean
Probably Larry Ellison.
Axe.
I think it's Larry Ellison, because I think Larry Ellison specifically will not give any of that money away. I don't know that. I'm making it up. But he does seem to be like this is a good one for us to look up. Has Larry Ellison signed the Giving Pledge? Emmy Award-winning producer Jackie needs to find out for me. Because that guy bought Lanai. And I have to say, if you go buy a $650 million island in Hawaii, that seems to me, and you don't donate it to the Hawaiian people, and you're 70 years old or 60, I don't know how old Larry Ellison is, got to be pushing 70, right?
He's timeless.
He's timeless?
He's timeless. Yeah, he doesn't seem to have aged much.
Well, this is really, we're getting to the point where you think about it. If you're Larry Ellison and you're worth whatever, 50 billion or something like that, he did take it. So Larry Ellison, you're off the hook. But is he going to give Lanai, this is what I want to know. Because in Hawaiian culture, the land is very sacred. Right? And to own the land and then to think you own it as a human being and you're not just a steward who is there to protect the land, and the land is for everybody. This is why Mark Zuckerberg got himself in so much trouble in Hawaii. He bought some amount of land and he was very heavy-handed about it and just totally clueless about the fact that Hawaiian people take their culture really seriously, and you just have to be kind of respectful there in a different way. He bought an island, Lanai. I would think that if I was going to buy Lanai, the first thing I would do is say, by the way, I'm 40, if I'm Larry Ellison, I'm 68 years old. I just want to let everybody know I bought Lanai. It is a gift to me, to the people of Hawaii, and will be a nature preserve for this time, for all eternity. And I'm putting $100 million into a trust and a team of people. This will always be nature preserve, so that people just chill out. I got to figure out about this Lanai situation. But you're right. Which billionaire has not signed the Giving Pledge? If you're any of these people, I saw a great Michael Bloomberg interview on 60 Minutes. He's like, it's obscene to think anybody could ever spend the amount of money I have. It's all being given away.
Yeah.
And then we create this stupid inheritance tax under Trump, is saying, let's get rid of the inheritance tax. It's so dumb. What person is so myopic that they would want to give $20 billion or $10 billion or $1 billion to their child to ruin their life? I say that because my dad didn't give me anything, and if I would have a totally different position if my dad was a billionaire, mind you. But what's your take on that, inheritance?
Well, should
people be able to give their kids all of that wealth and just have multi-generational wealth and create robber barons again?
The Milton Friedman argument is like, if you're 40 and you already have enough money for your lifetime, then you're just going to retire and stop working, even though you're at a very productive age.
Yeah.
But if you had to keep building money and wealth for your kids and your kids' kids and their kids too, then you'll work a little bit harder and live a more productive life. So then he would argue that you shouldn't stop people from inheriting money. I'm not sure how much I'm going to change the perception out there of me, but I'm trying to be able to basically inherit my own money when I am resurrected, because I have alcohol.
Oh, you're going to be frozen?
So I'm going to be frozen.
How much does that cost you? I was thinking about this.
Then I think it's really unfair, right? Because imagine you get inheritance, you get taxed by the government
for when you're reborn,
and then you come back to life. They've taken your money, and then you're just like now you have less money. And
they shouldn't be able to do that.
And they inflated the money while you were in stasis.
So wait a second. You have Alcor. For people who don't know, Alcor means when you die, even if it's a tragic, like you get hit by a car today, God forbid, you will have your body immediately taken to be frozen, and then they fly it to Utah or something and put it in a bunker. Is that right?
I'm not actually sure which state it is. I can't remember.
Right. But this costs $250,000?
Well, you can do it with insurance. So the life, you can do it, you buy life insurance, and then when you die,
the life insurance pays for it.
Yeah.
So that's like $5,000 a year.
Even though you're not really dead. So I guess you're benefiting from that.
Fantastic. And then if they get you in time, they put you upside down, frozen your whole body. If they don't get you in time, they just there's two ways you can get your head cut off, and they put your head in frozen.
Yeah, you can also elect to have just your head done.
Just your head, yeah.
But I'm doing whole body.
Whole body. If they can bring you back to life, they'll get you a new body. frankly, I don't want my body. I've never been happy with my body totally. So I would just like my head, and I'd like to put it on like a horse or maybe a baboon. I don't know. Maybe something. Like a 3D print me a new body. I would like to be Incredible Hulk or something. By that time, it's going to be... But you literally are doing this.
I have signed up, yeah.
Richard, we now know everything we need to know about you.
Yeah, I've really tipped my hand now.
We've really learned a lot. We know you've got Ace King right now suited. We know you're sitting on Ace King suited and you're slow playing it and now you're shoving it all in. Little do you know, I've got aces and you're drawing slim, kid. You're a 2%er now. All right, listen, Richard Craib, Numerai like samurai, Numer.ai. Oh, you want to get a plugin?
Can I get one plugin? Yeah.
Yeah, you hiring?
Yeah, we are hiring.
I knew it was going to be for a hire. I knew it.
Even though we have 15,000 data scientists and we want people to join the platform, we still need people inside of our company.
All right.
And software engineers with general skills. Even if you don't know machine learning, we would love to hear from you.
And what's great is you guys have the commuter benefit. You guys give commuter benefits, I heard. So you get that $15 for BART, and you get the Alcor benefit. Everybody who works at Numerai gets their head frozen.
You'd be surprised how close to true that is.
If you did that for employees, let me tell you something. Based on what I know, this might be the key moment. This could be the best press thing. Here's what you do. While you're working at Numerai, you are under the group plan to get your head frozen. If you hit year 4 and you're fully vested, whole body frozen.
That's good. That's good.
If you leave, you do not get eternal life. This is a benefit.
Okay.
I'm coming to work for you.
Okay, this is good.
No, I'm dead serious. If you did this, this would be the biggest press hack ever.
Maybe we should write the press release today.
If you write the press release, all employees are now covered under the Alcor Numerai partnership.
Yeah, because we care about the long term.
We really care about them for the long term.
Yeah.
We're in it with you for the long term. It's hilarious. This could be, can you imagine poor Larry Page and Sergey Brin and Sundar are at Alphabet right now going,
oh, yeah.
How do we compete with this? We're going to get our own Alcor's facility, and in the basement of Google will be all the Google employees who die will be in the basement of Google in Mountain View, frozen. And then whenever Google needs another engineer in the year 2070, they'll go down to the basement, they'll just find you by whatever programming stack and your IQ, and they'll unfreeze you when they have a position for you. Forget about coming back to life. You'll come back to life when Google needs you. This is a great short story. This is a Black Mirror episode. Yeah. Literally, Emmy Award-winning producer Jackie, get Lon Harris on the phone, play him this video immediately, ask him to write up a treatment for this, and then we're going to submit it to Black Mirror. This is a Black Mirror episode. This is so dystopian, Richard.
Yeah.
You work for the company, and the company buys the rights to your second life and when they can bring you back to life.
And you have to work for them when you come back.
So that's the deal. We'll bring you back to life, but you are an indentured servant. In order for coming back to life, you got to give us 40 hours a week.
Company of zombies.
No, you just give us 40 hours a week, 9 to 5. You get 4 weeks vacation, but at night, 5 p.m., you can go have your own life, but you got to get your ass back in here at 9. And if it doesn't work out, you go right back downstairs frozen. The second if you get a bad 360 review, back to the basement with you, frozen. This has been This Week in Dystopia. My guest, Richard. All right, we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.